Welcome to Rico 12. I'm Justin B., your host and a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and an addict living in the miracle of recovery one day at a time. Rico 12 is dedicated to exploring the common threads of addiction, sharing tools, and offering hope from those walking a similar path. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and locations to learn and support one another. Our speakers come from various fellowships and experiences demonstrating the universal principles of recovery. This is Rico 12 meeting 321. Thank you for joining us live or in the recording later. Today's speaker is Logan T. He's discussing the topic, I came to ABA for Vanity and stayed for Sanity. And I look forward to hearing his message shortly. But first, a few quick announcements. Rico 12 offers a variety of recovery resources, including podcasts and social media communities. To explore more, visit Rico12.com. That's RECO12.com. Or check out the chat. I'll put links in the chat here or the show notes of the podcast. Rico 12 is self-supporting, and your contributions help us continue this mission. Thank you to all of our Spearhead donors, past and present, especially Victoria this week. Your support truly makes a difference. If you'd like to contribute, visit Rico12.com/support, or I'll put links in the chat and in the show notes of the podcast for either one-time or monthly donation options. Every bit of support, financial or through word of mouth, helps us share these messages of recovery with more people. Each week, we receive light and inspiration from our speakers. Their experience brings hope, meaning, worth, and growth to us as listeners. Now I'm going to welcome today's guest speaker, Logan T., and I'll share just a little bit about him so you can learn a little bit before we turn the floor over to him. Logan has over 6 years clean and sober in Crystal Meth Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. He has over 3 years sober in Sexaholics Anonymous and 9 months sober in Anorexics and Bulimics Anonymous. After 4 unsuccessful interventions, Logan finally entered recovery in 2018 because his chemical and process addictions had progressed to the point of unbearable mental and physical torture. His denial of his eating disorder was finally broken after he was 5 years into recovery, when it was revealed to him in ABA that his eating disorder was his primary addiction. He wasn't about to give up his best drug first. Instead, he gave up his best drug last and finally found freedom. Logan, take it away. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. I'm Logan. I'm a anorexic and a bulimic, and those words would never have come out of my mouth a year ago in any audience. But that's who I am. That's what I am. I accept that today, and I've got some recovery through the Fellowship of ABA. Program works. Only thing that's ever worked for me. I chose the topic. I came for the Vanity, but I stayed for the Sanity because that vanity is a form of pride. It's one of the 7 deadlies, and it nearly killed me. I was just obsessed with how I looked, what people thought about me. To the point of, as I got older, I was willing to take more risk. I was willing, after 6 years of not touching the horrible drug of crystal meth, I was almost prepared to try it again because I could lose weight. I could get thin again. And when I'm thin, I feel cocky. I feel arrogant. I feel like Superman. And that's that insecurity that I'm always, trying to find something to fix, just that self-worth deal. So, a little bit about my story. I guess I heard that phrase in my journey, early in my journey to ABA, that I came for the Vanity, because that's true. That's why I came here. That was the mental torture that brought me here, that finally broke me. That made me desperate enough to seek help. But the longer I stayed in ABA, I found sanity. And I realized, just how progressive, how fatal this disease is. It's a gross disease. It's a disgusting disease to talk about bulimia. It really is. And it's, not something I enjoy talking about. Vanity is not something I enjoy talking about either. That's one of those character defects that I kind of want not talk about, not be honest about, pretend I don't have. But that's the one that's going to kill me. The pride that takes me out. So this is my story, a little bit about me. This is my experience. This is kind of really all I have to offer today. Just kind of my journey. I was trying to think back, you know, to the beginning. Like, when did this all start? And I really believe I was born an addict. I was born with this allergy. I don't know if I understand it totally. I don't know if I really need to. I have it, and I have this mental obsession. That couples with that allergy that'll take me back to anything that numbs me out, that makes me feel good. Just kind of this entitlement that I was born with. So I was born in a very normal family. My parents have been married almost 60 years. They both work one job their entire life and retire. My brother's the same way. I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm always the one on the struggle bus, one trying to always think the grass is always going to be greener on the other side, just always restless, just in this state of restlessness. And I think I was kind of born that way. I knew there was always more, always more. And I was thinking about when I was a little kid, probably around the age of 7 or 8, is when I think this stuff really started manifesting. We lived on a dead end street, and maybe twice a year, all the families would get together and have like a cookout, and all the kids would play, and the parents would be drinking, and I noticed, I was 7 or 8 years old. I don't really, know anything, but I knew there was something magical in whatever they were drinking. There was something more to life. Like as the night went on, I remember this vividly, which is odd, but I remember the laughter got louder, the jokes got funnier, everybody was freer. People were hugging and kissing, and I saw somebody slap a woman on the ass that wasn't his wife, and I was thinking, man, there's something cool, I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was more to life. And around that same time, around 7 or 8, I had my first sexual experience. It was with a classmate. Um, he kind of showed me some things, and I look at it like maybe that's what started my sex addiction. But I'm 7 or 8 years old. Uh, I'm unable to have any type of sex. So I know now today that it was lust. I mean, I'm just fueled by this lust, and I just wanted more and more of it. We moved right after that summer. I remember starting a new school, new friends, new environment. Addicts don't adjust well to change. Well, this addict didn't adjust well. My mother went to work for the first time. I had to eat school lunches for the first time. And, it was kind of a different life for me. And I remember gaining some weight. Um, and, like I said, I'm 7, 8 years old. And I remember someone saying something to me about it. Like, hey, you get a little putty. And I, remember just this insecurity, huge amount of insecurity. And I'm a very sensitive boy too. And anybody that says something critical to me, man, it haunts me. And so I remember just instantly being able to lose that weight. I mean, and I remember how powerful that felt. Like, just I didn't have to do anything, just effortless. And so I kind of went through life remembering these two drugs that I had found on my own. One of them was that I could manufacture in my head. One of them revolved around sex. One of them revolved around being able to lose weight, to get thin when I needed to, when I wanted to, this control of my body. I was not purging at the time. I was more of a restrictor, I think, early on. I could go days without eating, and I felt kind of alive. And I remember too, going back to, this is a disgusting disease, but I remember like having to go to the bathroom and holding it in, and like just some sort of, if I could feel something in my body, I felt alive. And so whether it was eating a ton of food, not eating for days, any of that stuff, just anything, these chemicals in my body, just made me feel alive. And I just chased that. I kind of like I had my own pharmacy in my head. I discovered uh, masturbation a couple years later, and so when you throw in the ability to binge and purge with the ability to self satisfy, those two things, I didn't need anything else. Those were the drugs that I needed. I was my own pharmacy in a way for a while. Around age 15, my eating disorder had progressed. Uh, I would, sneak food. I would, eat horribly. I could eat a whole thing of, pastries or whatever. I'd steal them or whatever. And so I got put on this really. I wasn't an overweight kid. I was very athletic. Played a lot of sports. I was in shape, but my blood levels were horrible. So
Oh, I think we lost Logan. Let's get him back here in just a minute. Hopefully, his connection is able to come back up. But so far, I'm intrigued by his story, and I look forward to hearing more about that.
I think I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry about
excellent,
that.
Logan. Jump right in. Thank you.
And I remember I got put on this real restrictive diet. I could only have a certain amount. I could have zero sugar, a certain amount of fat grams a day. It's just this insane diet for a 15-year-old to be on. And I remember my family, my brother, my dad, my mom kind of had to go along with it. And I remember they would kind of say things, kind of. I'm a sensitive kid, so I assume a lot of things too. That's one of my big character defects. I like to make assumptions. But they would, kind of, oh, do we have to eat grilled chicken and this again today? And I just felt this huge amount of shame and embarrassment, that I had caused all this. And that kind of add a little more stealth. I had to get a little smarter about this thing. I had to kind of, look ahead. If I'm going to the doctor, 2 months from now, all right, I got to shut it down. I got to, make sure, that I can protect this thing. So that was kind of my teenage years, just kind of a battle with it. But being put on that diet, I remember I got real thin and real lean, real muscular. And I had sex for the first time, and I found alcohol for the first time. And I just remember I got the mixture just right. I had vanity, I had lust, and I had alcohol, and I got the mixture just right. And that fueled me for the next 25 years, chasing that again. If I could just get that mixture perfectly again. And I tried every way I could think of to ignite that. And I never could get there again. But so that was kind of a pivotal point. Um, let's see. Moving on, made it into my 20s. Let's see. I'm in college. I'm on my own for the first time. I don't really have to. I live by myself most of the time. I have freedom now. I don't have people watching me. I can really binge and purge. When I really started finding, laxatives were very helpful. But vanity was always the driving force. I mean, it was always how I looked, what people thought about me. And was I thin? Was I attracted? Were people lusting after me? I mean, it was just constant, just obsessive thoughts. Let's see. I guess moving on. I guess into my 30s. I'm getting a little older now. It's not so easy to have the kind of body that I had when I was in my 20s, and so now this disease is progressing. And one of the things that probably kept me out of the rooms of ABA for a while was to be a bulimic. I thought you had to throw up 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. That's not the case. Bulimia um, is a binge followed by some sort of purge, and the purge can be many things. It can be exercise. It can be weeks of strict dieting. I mean, it can be any sort of thing. And so I had a lot of closed mindedness about bulimia when I first got here. But we have a chapter in our book that really goes into detail all the different ways that we can. And so um, we're in the month of March, and it's the third tradition. And I always think about, the only requirement for membership in our program is unhealthy eating practices, desire to stop your unhealthy eating practices. And our door is wide open. We welcome anybody that has that. And I know I do. Back to my story a little bit, just the progression of it. In my 30s, I get involved with wife number two. She's a very big into fitness junkie. We do all these different, these exercise programs and all these fitness things, and I'm famous for cheating. I'm always looking to cheat, and so I found anabolic steroids, and so now I'm shooting my body up with God knows what. I'm taking advice from people that don't have medical license, that are just handing me stuff in a paper sack with a needle, telling me use this much and this much. And so I'm shooting all this stuff in my body, just trying to get the body I want. Just because I think that'll make me feel okay. That'll take care of the insecurities, the vanity. And after that, I get hooked on Adderall because that's not because I'm ADHD, because it's a fat burner. For me, it was. And that eventually led me into crystal meth use, cocaine use, and just the horrible results from both of those. But I'm going to stick with my eating disorder today. What finally brought me here, after by the time I was 40 years old, I was tying up loose ends from divorce from wife number two. She had found my stash of laxatives. She had just had it, all my lies, all my shadiness. I remember I bought a friend of mine had one of these Toyota Priuses, and it was a real quiet car. And I remember, I need to get one of those so she can't hear me leave in the middle of the night. And I remember buying a Toyota Prius so I could sneak out in the middle of the night, and my wife would never hear the car crank up. And just the insane lengths I would go do this, but just all the lies, all the deceit. But when I'd always lived with this fear of being found out, especially as a man, that I have an eating disorder. And when she discovered my stash of laxatives and started questioning me about it, she found my steroids, she found all this stuff. I just remember this being emasculated, like I was just less of a man. I knew I assumed she was going to go tell everybody that she's married to, this real sicko who, does all these things. And so, I had to get rid of her. So I had to get far away from her. So I left that marriage, just walked out one day. It was on New Year's Day, 2015, just walked out with 2 duffel bags, said, take it. My addictions were a lot more important than my marriage was at the time. So, but what finally brought me here, I had a couple of years of sobriety in AA, and I was working a good program. I'm not a tourist. I'm a member of AA. I do service work. I'm the GSR for my home group. I have a home group in Crystal Meth Anonymous. I work a solid program, but I knew something was wrong. And I was in such denial about this eating disorder, just such denial. And COVID came, and I'm a couple years in recovery. And I remember I got COVID for the first time, and I lost like 25 pounds. And I loved it. I mean, I just loved it. And I would try to get COVID from people. Like I would hang around sick people trying to get it so I could drop that 25 pounds. Just the power, just how amazing that felt. And I think, man, there's something really, really wrong with this picture. And just some of the examples of the insane things that I would do for this eating disorder. But towards the end there, I didn't go to the doctor for about 5 or 6 years. I was scared of what the doctor was going to know about me. I knew my health was bad. I was having really bad gout. having a lot of physical problems from just the insane eating practices I was doing. I wouldn't eat for 3 or 4 days, or else I would devour everything in sight. I mean, it's just crazy. My kids never knew which person was coming to dinner with them. Was it the guy who, I'm not hungry, or the guy who's just going to devour everything in sight? I mean, it's just, and I just realized how selfish and unstable that was for them. But I remember about this time last year, my kids were getting ready to graduate from high school. I have twins, boy-girl twins. And so there were a lot of pictures being taken, and I always hated my picture being taken, always. And I felt really bad. I felt really fat, really ugly. And somebody was wanting to take pictures of us. And I remember getting violently mad, almost verbally aggressive, physically aggressive towards this person for just wanting to take pictures of my kids on their graduation date from high school, and how my daughter was so ashamed and so upset. And I'd kind of ruined one of the most one of the most important nights of her life. Oh man. And that was one thing that really, the following day, that was on a Friday night. And I remember on a Saturday morning, I was at my first meeting. I knew something had to change. I just knew it. I was there. I couldn't take it anymore. 3 people that were close to me had just recently died from really unhealthy body weights, from just from kind of self-induced suicide almost. And I guess the other thing that brought me in the rooms were I was sitting in the parking lot waiting to have my annual physical with my doctor, and I was debating. I was trying to come up with a good story to get her to prescribe me amphetamines again. This is after 5 years of working a solid program, and I knew where that would take me. I used to be an attorney. I lost all that. I've been in 2 marriages. Financial ruin. I got the IRS, and I got taxes galore. Just horrible consequences from the crystal, from all my addictions. And I was sitting there thinking, how can I get my doctor? I'm a good liar. I can tell a story and get her to prescribe me some more amphetamines. And I knew where that would go. I'd be right back to where I was 5 years earlier. And that's when I knew I was in trouble, because I was willing to throw away all that for the sake of getting thin, being thin, feeling thin. I've always kind of been a thin person, but I just didn't feel it. And I wanted that feeling again. So I was willing to go to those lengths. Luckily, I had a moment of clarity. My higher power stepped in. God did for me what I can never do for myself. Gave me a moment of clarity where I realized how insane that was. And soon after that, I found a different type of food fellowship. I could relate a little bit, not much. Good foods, bad foods. I couldn't really get into that. But I did hear occasionally, I'd hear somebody talk about bulimia, or I'd hear somebody talk about body image, vanity, just all this stuff. And that my ears would perk up. So I was giving an AA talk to a group a while back, and I remember talking about these process addictions, because now I've got two. Now I've got the chemical and the process. So I'm talking about, the big book was written in 1939, and it talks in there about, seeking outside help. We don't shy away from doctors. God's given us plenty. So, maybe today, maybe some of these other areas, there are over 212-step fellowships. Maybe there's help out there without going to get a prescription for something. Maybe there's other ways of dealing with these other character defects than a prescription pad. And I remember, kind of talking about that, and I said, all you got to do is go online and Google whatever your character defect is and put the word anonymous afterwards, and you'll probably find it. And so I'm on the way home from giving this AA talk, and I'm thinking, well, dummy, why don't you try that? And so I typed in bulimia, Anonymous, and I found ABA. And also through the help of some people that I see on the screen here that caught my attention with a couple of flyers and a couple of posts on some WhatsApp groups that really finally got me here to the program. And nothing's been the same since. I have not relapsed since I've been here. I think I came in with that gift of desperation, realizing that this is a progressive, fatal disease. It's very cunning. It's very baffling. In our textbook, we have what's kind of similar to the doctor's opinion, and I remember reading this page 9 of our ABA textbook. It says, it is generally agreed that anorexia and bulimia nervosa has the highest mortality rate of all psychiatric disorders. And I remember that thinking, I was just about to put one of the most deadliest drugs ever known to man in my body again because of my eating disorder. And I was just thinking, no, man, this thing's going to kill me. And I knew that. So I got in the program. I devoured the literature. I just read that book in the first 2 days. I couldn't take my hands off it. I could identify right down the line. I went to a lot of meetings, met a lot of good people. The withdrawal symptoms were hell, like in any addiction. I know when I first got into SA, boy, those withdrawals were rough, but these were horrible. I couldn't sleep. Some of my friends here go to a meeting that is at 3 a.m. in the morning, my time. And I'd be at their meeting because I couldn't freaking sleep. It's just miserable. And I had stomach problems. Had to be close. I had to know a bathroom was in running distance at all times because it was horrible. But I had to surrender, and I had to do the things that were necessary. And if withdrawals were easy, nobody would ever relapse. I think most of the relapses are because they're these emotional withdrawals and physical withdrawals. And I had the emotional ones. I cried a lot. I got angry a lot. But I knew something had to change. And first thing was getting on meal support. I had to take my hands off the food, off my eating, off my exercise, off everything, and just turn it over to somebody other than me. And that was the first step. I had to get on meal support. I had to get somebody to feed me. I turned 47 a couple, I guess, last month. So I'm a grown man, and I need somebody to feed me. That's how insane I'd got. And I needed that. I needed to take my hands, my thinking, take it all off the table, and just do what somebody told me to do. And that was part of surrender. Second part of surrender was getting a trained dietitian on board. That was one thing. I remember driving to my very first appointment with my dietitian, and I remember how scared I was because I was just about to hand it all to her. I mean, really, I made 3 or 4 phone calls on the way there just for some people to hold me accountable because I didn't want to go. I mean, I did not want to give anybody control over my eating. And so, but I went, and some people reminded me that the dietitian is a trained professional who's there to help, not there to hurt me, not there to make me fat, not there to make me miserable. She was there to help me, and that's exactly what I found when I sat down with my dietitian for the first time. She came up with a meal plan for me, and she sent me away with it. And, I followed the instructions to the T. I ate what I was supposed to eat when I was supposed to eat it. And, I'd go back and see her every 2 weeks. And I sat down with her, and the first question ever, have you skipped any meals? No, ma'am. Have you thrown up? No, ma'am. And it was just kind of, let's start at square one. And she kept reminding me, hey, my job is to teach you to eat normally, insanely. You're not there yet. You got a long way to go, but that's the ultimate goal here. And that was 9 months ago, and I go see her next week. And I couldn't have done that without her. I got a sponsor program, started working the steps. I'm a big fan of the written first step because I go back and read that thing occasionally just to remember where I was, what got me here, the progression. So I'm a huge fan of that. I know in SA, we give away our first step. We read it to our group. I've read my first step to some people. I just need to let people know that I'm done with that. That's the old me. This is Logan 2.0 that's asking for help now. And I don't ever want to go back there. Let's see. Good news. About a week ago, my sponsor finally, told me he thinks I'm ready to sponsor other men now, and I'm really excited about that. We don't have many men in our program, but I'm grateful that I've, have been given permission to do that today. ABA is the greatest gift I never wanted. I didn't want to be a bulimic, but I am one today. It's not easy to talk about, but it's what I am, and God has a purpose for me, and maybe it's to help some of His sick kids, people that are struggling like I struggle, people that are have so much pride, have so much vanity that they're willing to do what I was willing to do, which is pretty much kill yourself over this thing. So I found freedom in ABA. The program works. It's the only thing that's ever worked for me. And I hope my story can help somebody. So thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Logan. I really appreciate it. Great share. And I'm grateful that you were able to get back on after that little technical issue. So thanks for coming back on and finish up your share, because that was fantastic. I've written down several questions here, and a reminder to our live audience, if you have a question for Logan, please type it in the chat. If you want to remain anonymous, you don't want me to read your first name, just put anonymous in there or direct message it to me. So the first question I want to ask you, Logan, is control is a big thing here. I see, I want to have control over this, control over that. What function does the need for control of self have in your addiction? And how did you get to the point of, all right, I'm willing to let that go?
I think it was, I think it was the mental torture, I think, drove me here. I think physically, I probably could have endured this thing a little while longer. I towards the end there, my weight would fluctuate about 50 pounds. I would go on, and that was part of my denial. I would binge for weeks, and then I would purge for weeks. It was kind of slow, and then other times it would be, binge purge. So, it was really tricky to really get a grasp on it. But I just know today, when I met with my dietitian for the first time, I told her my story, and she told me, looked me straight in the eye and said that your eating disorder is your primary addiction. And it always has been. That's why you've held on it this long. And my counselor told me that too. And then other members of ABA have told me that as well, that the only reason I ever touched the drug of crystal meth was because of my eating disorder. So I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know if I know the answer. I just know that I had the gift of desperation, and I still have it today, and I hope I have it tomorrow. And I know that the program works. I see it. There are people here that are in the fellowship with me that I've seen it work, and I've seen them get the freedom from it. And so it's, I think control is involved in probably every addiction, some sort of measure of feeling like I'm in control, but it's an illusion. It really is. It's like when I got that mixture just right when I was 15, when I had the vanity, I felt good about myself. I had the sex and the lust, and I had the alcohol. I got the mixture perfectly. I thought I was in control, and that was just an illusion. I never could get there again. I just chased it. So,
yeah, thank you for sharing that.
That's all I have.
All right. Next question comes from our live audience. This is from Lizzie. Lizzie says, thank you for sharing such a strong story of recovery. I really resonated with the mental pharmacy. And then Lizzie asks, do you connect with one ultimate higher power and link your prayers and surrender to that one being? What does your relationship with higher power look like? Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M. and me, Justin B. on Rico 12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
I guess it changes. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences and awakenings along the way, and that come from different places. I think it's wherever I'm present when I'm quiet. I know one of my first ones was I was driving down the road. I was really agitated, really mad. I didn't want to. I knew I had to go home and eat, and I didn't want to. I wasn't hungry. My meal plan told me that I'm supposed to eat when I get home, eat this meal, and I was pissed. I didn't want to do it. I was pouting. I was just really in that kind of screw it mode. And I remember looking over to my left. It was one of these big harvest moons, big orange moons set low out in the sky. And I remember this calmness came over me. And it was almost kind of like God's presence saying, "It's going to be okay. I got you, fella." And I've had moments like that all through. Where I feel like God's really just stepped in right when I'm ready. When I'm ready to hear. So my higher power today, I get up and do my prayers, my meditations, my readings. I don't know if there's one specific thing that I pray to. It's just I think it's just doing the act. The surrender to me is just doing an action, taking the next right step. So
yeah,
I don't know if I'm answering any of these questions.
Well, your experience, strength, and hope is important. So thank you for sharing that. And I think it answers questions for lots of people as you do that. My next question for you, Logan, you mentioned a couple of times in your share how you're kind of sensitive. You don't handle criticism very well, or you haven't throughout your life. How does that change as you get into recovery, as to solid recovery? When somebody criticizes you, or you perceive that they criticize you, how are you able to handle that maybe a little bit more healthy now?
Another reason that I know that my eating disorder was my primary addiction is I've been unable to find jobs since I've been in recovery. I lost my law practice and my law degree, so I can't go back there. I did some insurance work for a little while, but I couldn't stay employed. I was unemployable. Number one, I'm very sensitive. I always assume people are criticizing me when maybe they're just trying to be helpful. And it's amazingly, I've been in ABA for 5 months and I get a job and I'm employable. And I suit up and I show up and I shut up. All because this eating disorder thing. That was always the thing that was in the way. That pride and that vanity, I think. It's just looking back, like this was always the missing piece, was this eating disorder, and how self-conscious I was, and I still am, but not as bad. And just knowing that God's looking out for me and has a purpose for me today, and it's none of my business. It's none of my business. None of my business what I look like today. It's none of my business what I eat today. I just do what I believe God wants me to do, and that's follow the help that's been provided to me by God, and I just get out of God's way today. That's what I really try to do. It's none of my business what you think about me. I just suit up, show up, and shut up, and try to help God's kids today. So.
Yeah. Do you think that that employability, and you said, hey, I get into ABA, I'm in recovery a handful of months, and all of a sudden I'm employable. Do you think that's because you got to the root of the issue, the primary drug, I guess, the primary addiction that you've experienced? Do you think, how important is that to get to the root of things rather than whack away at the other things that seem to be more important at the time?
Well, I know for a fact, and I still work a solid chemical recovery program. I know if I take a drink of alcohol today, I can kiss my eating disorder sobriety goodbye instantly. And also my sexual sobriety is gone. So I know I have to maintain sobriety in all areas. But, I think with the eating disorder, I think it's just given me a new attitude. I don't think about me so much. I mean, really, it's such a selfish, self-centered thing to be so consumed with myself at all times. My kids are graduating high school, and all I think about is me, 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 me. What do I look like? I don't even thinking about anybody else. And today, I feel like I'm kind of out of the picture. I'm a little bit smaller. I'm not focused on me. I know I'm doing what I need to do to stay healthy today, and that's be surrendered, be in a position of surrender where I follow my meal plan. I follow my sponsor's suggestions. I try to work my program, and I don't think about food. I don't obsess about eating, about keeping count. That was some of the mental torture was, well, I ate this much yesterday, so today I need to scale it back. I mean, it was just all consuming. I had no mental space, no freedom in my head to think about anything other than myself, what I look like, and my eating. And that's just a horrible place to be. I don't ever want to go back there, ever. Same thing with when I was in the throes of my sex addiction. It was just that lust was constant. When can I get the next hit? And so anyway, the mental obsession has been removed, and it's opened up my mind to be able to be useful to other people today. So
Love it. Thank you, Logan. Next question comes from Catherine. Hey, Catherine, it's good to see you here. Catherine says, "What a powerful share. Thank you. Did you know you had an eating disorder through your ED journey? What stories did you tell yourself to justify your insane eating behaviors?"
yeah, our textbook does a great job of going through some of those rationalizations. It's kind of like the chapter more about alcoholism in the AA book. All the countless vain attempts to think I'm a normal person. When in fact, if I'm honest, there's nothing sane or normal about anything I'm doing. But the fact that I wasn't in a hospital, I wasn't skin and bones. I didn't look like I had an eating disorder. People would tell me when I went off to treatment for sex and drug addiction, they would, well, you don't look like a crystal meth addict, because I didn't, and so those type things would keep me in denial that I'm not skinny enough, or I'm not throwing up 6 times a day. But in the meantime, I'm sneaking off in the middle of the night when my kids are asleep, buying 8 or 9 bottles of laxatives at a time so I can purge the next day. I mean, just doing the insane thing. So, I wasn't ready until I was ready, and I had to get in enough pain for that denial to be smashed. And it took a while. It took a long time. It took almost 40 years for me to get here. But that was my journey. So,
Thank you. All right. Question from an anonymous attendee here. This person says, "Thank you for your experience, strength, and hope, Logan. Do you ever find that thoughts ever try to creep back in? And if they do, what measures do you normally have in place to help you counteract the cunning nature of the eating disorder?" Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Rico 12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Rico 12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
Oh yeah, they're the noise is there. They come up a lot. Uh, let's see. They came up yesterday when I was thinking about my talk today. And one thing my sponsor reminds me, which I repeat to myself a lot, is Logan, you're not that damn important. You're really not that damn important. And I need to hear that all the time because my mind will take me places. I'll make assumptions again. And that's really one of my huge character defects is I love to assume you're thinking this, and those things will handicap me and hijack me. But yesterday I was thinking, I was like, you don't, I mean, even the denial was coming up yesterday when I was kind of thinking about what I might talk about today. It was kind of like, nobody's going to believe you have an eating disorder. You're a man. Men don't have these problems. These are women problems. And then, you're not, you've never been in a hospital or a treatment center. You've never, all these things, all this kind of negative talk. And I know that's my addiction. I know that's the disease talking. And I know, to get out of that. And sometimes it's getting on my knees and just praying, God, before I got on this meeting, I pray for a humble heart and for a servant's heart. Those are my two things. And if I can stay humble and I can stay in service, those thoughts don't bother me. But yeah, they come up. They come up a lot. My early on in recovery in ABA, I hated evenings. My kids had just gone off to college, so I've got an empty nest. It's just me, and so I'm sitting at a table by myself, staring at a wall, eating my meal, and I'm pissed. I hate it. I mean, I threw stuff occasionally, and I would talk to my dietitian about just how hard that is. Just sitting there because it's all about I'm back in self pity. Poor me. Everybody else is out having fun with friends. And here I am sitting down eating my meal, and that's kind of sometimes I have to go back to that. Just eat your meal. Don't throw up, no matter what, and go to a lot of meetings. So meetings. Those help a lot. So the thoughts do come up. I just have some tools today that I didn't have before. So I just know.
Thank you, Logan. All right, another anonymous question from our audience. What was your first 12-step program, and do you feel that working the steps in other programs helped you with ABA? And was the first time the hardest? The first time through the steps the hardest?
Okay, here we go. Sorry. The first time I went through the steps would have been back in 2018 when I was in Crystal Meth Anonymous and AA. I had one sponsor who sponsored me in both programs, which was great. I remember the fourth step was my ticket to freedom in that program. It really was. I felt like I belonged, and I knew I got some freedom from that. Now, when 3 years later, when I get into Sexaholics Anonymous, I finally break down and admit that I'm powerless over that. I'm working steps 6 and 7. I'm working a solid program, but they're not touching this lust. It's actually, I quit having sex because I had to, but I couldn't control the mental. The lust was getting stronger and stronger, and so when I get into that program, it was that first step when I wrote out. In that program, you write out your first step, and it's generally suggested that you give it away, meaning you go before your group and you read your first step to your group, and you're saying, "Look, this is what I've done. I'm done with this life." And that was huge for me. That was really big because there were some things I wasn't prepared to tell anybody. But I got freedom there. When I got to ABA, I knew the 12 steps worked. I knew it because they'd worked for me in the past. And I knew I needed to work them in this program with an emphasis on my eating disorder. I had to look at it through the eyes of the eating disorder because I'd skipped some things in my earlier ones because I couldn't really understand this control deal, this vanity, this form of pride. I couldn't really see all that. So when I got into ABA within the first 2 weeks. I didn't have an ABA sponsor. I had a sponsor in another program, another food fellowship. Um, and we went through the steps quickly within a couple of weeks. I wrote out my first step. I went through the whole thing. And then after I'd been in the first step, I think is what cinched it for me in ABA. I really saw the denial. I really saw all the justifications, all the rationalizations, all the excuses, all the insanity. I could see it on paper. And I go back and read it occasionally. It's about 11 pages long. And I can really see how all the other addictions were fueled by this feeling of being insecure, for instance, with the sex. I hired my first escort when I was 18 years old. And I remember uh, something broke inside of me that night. Really, like it severed me from having normal relationships or friendships with anybody. I mean, it really it's like a wall went up. It was horrible. But I do remember how I felt like Superman that night, and how the insecurities went away, all that stuff. And that's the same thing with the eating disorder. When I would feel good about myself and I would feel like I was real thin and lean and all that, the insecurities would go away. This cockiness, this arrogance, this really sense of belonging would go. So I got to see that on paper. So my written first step, and when I sponsor people today, that's one of the first things we do. We write a thing out because it's so useful to go back and read it and to go back and make some changes and edit it. So thanks.
Thank you, Logan. All right. Looks like Catherine and I are on the same page because my next question was going to be exactly what she wrote in here. What did your meal support look like then, and what does it look like now? And what does that mean, meal support?
Let's see. My meal plan now. I eat 3 meals a day, and I eat an afternoon snack. Now, most people in our program have a few more snacks. My dietitian has me on that, and that may change over time, and I'm just willing to, whatever she tells me to do, I just do it. I don't ask questions. I think maybe after the first month, I did go in and ask her if I could get a few more meal choices at night, but and then now I've started working. Sometimes I work nights, and that kind of throws me off. I get real anxious when I'm off my routine, and so I've had to kind of have some help with her through that. But I have a breakfast in the morning, a balanced breakfast in the morning. I have a choice, usually 4 or 5 different things, and I use a randomizer. I'm out of the decision. I'm out of the driver's seat here. I'm totally in submission to program, and so I use a randomizer. 1 through 5, whichever one pulls up, that's what I eat for breakfast. I'll usually go ahead and plan out my day because I have to pack my food to take it to work with me. But the great thing, and it maybe sounds like a pain in the ass, but I don't think about eating today. I just eat, and maybe people don't understand just how consuming it was before I got to ABA, of just constantly thinking about, did I eat too much here? Did I not eat enough here? Were people watching me eat? Just nonstop the mental torture. And today I don't have that. I just eat my meal plan. So right now it's 3 meals and one snack.
Yeah.
And
Thank
then there
you.
are occasions where, like where there's some variables that come up. If I go out to eat with my kids are home from college and we go out to eat, I kind of have, it's a little bit looser. I have some guidelines, that we've talked about. So I always try to run scenarios by my dietitian. She helps me walk through them. Even for Thanksgiving, we did like a walkthrough. Like I told, we almost did like a mock Thanksgiving
Mm.
so that I would be prepared because the anxiety was not there. I mean, it's amazing. It works.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. I love that. Well, the experience, the miracle there. Question from our live audience. This is Lizzie. Have you publicly admitted your eating disorder to friends and family, and how have those relationships changed in that conversation?
I have very few friends. I don't have many friends outside of recovery, to be honest with you. If I'm so much more comfortable around people in recovery. If I'm in a room of 1,000 people and I see Mariah or Catherine or Lizzie, I'm going to be standing right next to you. I'm really, I haven't really ventured that far out of the recovery world. My kids know. Um, I told them this may be a genetic thing. There's a chance one of you may have this thing too, and there is help. They know about all my addictions. They know I go to meetings. They see my feet moving. They see me going to meetings, answering phone calls. They see all the actions I'm taking because these things run in families, and I just want them to know that there's help available. As for other members in the fellowship, I have mentioned it. I don't know where the T-shirt, but there have been a couple of occasions where I've mentioned my eating disorder in a 12-step meeting. Because in the sex fellowships, especially, Dr. Carnes, Justin and I were talking about this earlier. Dr. Carnes, he's got kind of like the Bill W. of sex addiction. 67% of people with some sort of sexual or relationship addiction also have a food/eating problem. 67%. That's a lot, and there are a lot of people in my S fellowship that are in some sort of food program. So I know it's needed there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Logan. So before we wrap things up, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us? Hey, Rico 12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Rico 12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at rico12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Rico 12 Spearhead.
I don't know. I just know I found freedom through ABA, and just the fact that I'm in. I mean, it's just amazing how for 6 years I've been trying to find. I mean, I've been applying for jobs left and right, anything. And I get to ABA, and I'm employable now. And so I just know. I know that's just kind of a material thing, but it means a lot more to me. Just it's an emotional thing too. It's kind of like I know I'm there. Like I found the freedom that I can be useful and helpful to other people today. ABA works. We don't have many men in the program, but I'll be glad to talk to anybody. Our door is wide open. If you have, a desire to stop unhealthy eating practices, that's all that's required to come in our rooms, and our doors are wide open. And this program really works. I had a lot of closed-minded ideas about eating disorders, but now my mind's open a lot more. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, all different ways. Over-exercising, any sort of obsession. Dealing with the body or with eating, you're welcome. So thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So if anybody wants to get in contact with you, Logan, are you okay if they email me and I push them through to you so we have keep that off the recording here?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll put.
Excellent.
It's okay. I'll put my number.
You can put it in the chat. Absolutely. Okay. And if anybody out there listening in the podcast format wants to get in contact with Logan, send an email to rico12pod@gmail.com. That's RECO12POD@gmail.com. I'll get you connected with him. Thank you so much, Logan, for a very meaningful Rico 12 speaker meeting. If we missed anybody's question, or if anybody would like to continue this conversation, join our WhatsApp community. Once again, anything you want to do to connect with us or connect with our speakers, send an email to rico12pod@gmail.com, and we'll get you connected there. If you haven't done so already, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify, however you listen. It's a powerful way to work your step 12 and share recovery with others. Next Friday, we will hear from another first-time Rico 12 speaker, David L. And next week, Purdy will be the host of the meeting, as I'll be with my grandson celebrating his first birthday. And I'm really grateful to be able to go spend time with family. And I'm really grateful for Purdy for being willing to, once again, to step in when I step out so that I can connect with family and put my family first. All right, let's wrap up with the third step prayer that Logan's going to say for us.
All right, thanks, Justin. Appreciate your invitation. Third step prayer, after a short meditation. God, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. Please relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do your will. Please take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help today of your power, your love, and your way of life, and do your will always. Amen.
And thank you so much, Logan. Remember, everybody, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back, and when you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
There was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to scream, but the sound never came out. So he reached for the bottle to wash the pain away, 'cause what he wanted so badly was to live a different way. And all of his problems and all of his pain filled up the puddle and rose with the rain. His ship kept on sinking to the bottom of the lake. For certain that he was just a fake, just a fake. Was a man put his hand by the side of his mouth, and he wanted to share, but only lies ever came out. So he reached for the needle to numb the pain inside, and the truth that he yearned for shriveled up and died. And all of his problems, all of his pain filled up the puddle, rose with the rain. Ship kept on sinking, bottom of the lake. For certain he was just a fake, just a fake. naked truth spilled out. So he reached for a power to help him through the night.